Be me, 21 years old and sitting on top of the world. My iPhone lock screen is an endless graveyard of unread Tinder messages. The pinging never stops. It's a constant, intoxicating rhythm. Dating in this city isn't a marketplace. It's an all-you-can-eat buffet, and I have an absolute bottomless appetite. My thumb swipes right, left, with the muscle memory of a professional athlete. I don't even look at their bios anymore. Just height, jawline, and how much their watch costs. If they aren't offering VIP tables or weekend trips, they don't even register as human. By my senior year of college, my body count has quietly crossed into triple digits. I don't feel ashamed. I feel like a god. Every new guy is just another notch, another free drink, another hit of pure dopamine. Male attention is cheaper than the tap water at our favorite dive bar. I use them for a ride home, a free meal, or just to kill time on a boring Tuesday night. Then I discard them without a second thought. It's a Thursday evening, and the pregame is in full swing at the sorority house. The air is thick with cheap tequila, Victoria's Secret body spray, and absolute hubris. I hold court on the faux leather sofa, reading my DMs aloud to the girls. Hey, beautiful, would love to take you to that new Italian place by the harbor. The room erupts into theatrical laughter. You! An actual dinner date? My roommate snorts, handing me a vodka cranberry. Sounds like an interview, I laugh, rolling my eyes. Block. I ghost the earnest, stable guys in a heartbeat. They want to talk about their entry-level finance jobs and their 5-year plans. They want to pick me up at 7 p.m. and ask about my day. It literally makes my skin crawl. Boring, pathetic, try-hards. I genuinely believe I am completely bulletproof. I stare at my reflection in the bathroom mirror, reapplying my lip gloss. Flawless skin. Perfect hair. A body that skips the line at any club downtown. I am a premium commodity. My logic is incredibly simple and entirely delusional. I will ride this carousel of endless validation for as long as I want. Then, the exact second I get tired of the game, I'll just flip a switch. I'll decide I'm ready for a ring. I'll effortlessly pluck a wealthy, handsome husband out of the lineup, right on schedule. Why wouldn't I? I've never been told no a single time in my entire life. I pocket my phone as another dozen notifications light up the screen. Tonight is going to be another blur of flashing strobe lights and nameless tangled sheets. I grab my jacket, entirely convinced the music will never stop playing. But looking back, I was already laying the bricks for my own permanent isolation. I just needed my friends to help me pour the concrete. We are a hive mind in 6-inch heels. My friend group is an impenetrable fortress of toxic validation. We spend every Sunday brunch mocking the girls from our hometowns, the ones posting engagement photos and buying throw pillows. We call them pathetic. We call traditional commitment a literal prison for ugly girls. Meanwhile, we celebrate our own chaos like it's a religion. Surviving a 3-day weekend bender is treated as peak female empowerment. Dating a club promoter who lives in a rented condo makes us royalty. Then, the junior architect tries to shoot his shot. He's 26, polite, and wears button-down shirts that actually fit. He approaches me at a daytime rooftop party, holding 2 overpriced cocktails. He asks me about my career goals. He mentions he just closed on a starter home in the quiet part of the city. He is offering stability, genuine interest, and a solid future. I look at him like he just handed me a bag of medical waste. A starter home? A predictable routine? I genuinely laugh right in his face. I need a man who matches my chaotic energy, I tell him, turning my back. I immediately text the group chat. We ruthlessly roast his sensible haircut and his reliable salary. I leave the party with a local DJ whose real name I don't even know. That is the standard operating protocol. And because it's so easy, the years just blur together. 22 bleeds into 24. 24 crashes headfirst into 27. 5 years vanish in a cynical hyperspeed montage. My life becomes a copy-paste cycle of cheap thrills. Identical late-night "you up?" texts lighting up the dark. Identical vodka-induced hangovers. Identical morning walks to a waiting Uber, shivering. In yesterday's tight dress, the roster expands exponentially. I cross the 200 mark, and then I just stop keeping track entirely. They are nothing but faceless shadows moving through my 20s. Another night, another bathroom mirror selfie, another discarded man. I am having the absolute time of my life, until the rhythm finally breaks. The shift doesn't happen overnight, it happens slowly, like a quiet leak in a luxury yacht. We are at our usual VIP table on a Saturday night, but I look around and notice the circle is getting smaller. Sarah is staying in tonight. Chloe just moved to the suburbs with her boring boyfriend. The chaotic group chat is slowing down to a crawl. The club music suddenly feels a little too loud. The flashing strobe lights just give me a headache. And for the first time in 5 years, the wealthy guys at the next table don't look at me. They look right past me. They are staring directly at the fresh batch of 21-year-olds by the bar. I grip my warm drink, feeling a sudden cold knot twist in my stomach. My 28th birthday is 3 weeks away, and I suddenly realize the carousel is slowing down. The cold knot in my stomach doesn't go away. It only tightens as 28 officially hits. The dating market isn't just shifting, it is aggressively self-correcting. The top-tier men still text me, but the timestamps are completely different. The 7 p.m. dinner invitations have entirely vanished. They are replaced by strict 2 a.m. come-over demands. The wealthy finance bros don't want to be seen with me at Sunday brunch. They don't invite me to their summer Hamptons parties. They definitely don't introduce me to their peers. I am no longer a public trophy. I am strictly a midnight secret. The panic sets in quietly at first. Then it becomes a deafening roar. I scroll through Instagram on a Saturday afternoon. My feed is a terrifying graveyard of my former life. The girls who used to match me shot for shot are gone. They are posting close-ups of custom engagement rings. They are holding up sonograms at pastel-colored baby showers. They are buying labradoodles and matching patio furniture. Meanwhile, I am sitting alone on my couch with a splitting headache. My phone is completely dead. No one is rallying for bottomless mimosas. No one is splitting an SUV to the club tonight. My chaotic weekend schedule has evaporated into nothing. I am entirely, terrifyingly socially isolated. The realization hits me like a physical blow to the chest. I am the last girl at the party, and the lights just came on. The room is empty and I look like a mess. I refuse to go out like this. I sit up and violently grab my phone. I open Tinder, Hinge, and Bumble. I aggressively delete the accounts. I delete the apps themselves. I wipe out thousands of unread matches in under 3 minutes. My fun phase is officially, permanently dead. I declare it over, right here in my empty apartment. It is time to flip the commitment switch. I need an overnight top-to-bottom rebrand. I am no longer the chaotic party girl who thrives on toxicity. I am suddenly a high-value woman. I deserve a massive ring, a joint mortgage, and undeniable respect. I march into my bathroom and stare at my reflection. I wipe off the smudged leftover club makeup. I mentally map out the entirely new strategy. No more DJs, no more promoters, no more faceless encounters. I need deep pockets, total stability, and blind trust. I need a man desperate enough for a pretty face to ignore the red flags. And I know exactly where to find him. I know exactly the demographic I need to hunt. I reinstall LinkedIn, not Hinge. I need a man who spent his 20s studying, not partying. I spot him at an upscale neighborhood coffee shop at 7 a.m. His name is David. He is 34, VP of Regional Logistics, and painfully predictable. He wears pressed khakis and has a spotless credit score. 5 years ago, I would have laughed him out of the room. Today, he is my absolute golden ticket. I accidentally on purpose bump into him by the pastry glass. I drop a gentle, rehearsed smile. I introduce myself as a quiet marketing consultant who just loves early mornings. He is instantly captivated by the polished, conservative facade. Before our first official date, I perform brutal digital surgery on my past. I ruthlessly scrub my entire social media presence. I delete 7 years of neon-lit club bathroom selfies. I untag myself from massive Ibiza boat parties and Vegas Vaz IP tables. I wipe out any trace of the promoters, the DJs, and the endless benders. I archive every photo where my hemline rests above my mid-thigh. My grid is instantly transformed into a masterpiece of domestic purity. It is now strictly farmers markets, golden hour dog walks, and home-cooked meals. I curate the perfect untouchable illusion of a sweet traditional girl next door. I wear a tasteful beige cashmere sweater to our first dinner. I order a light salad and talk about how much I value loyalty and family. I claim my ideal weekend is staying in with a single glass of Pinot Noir. David buys the act completely, hook, line, and sinker. He is eager for a pretty face and completely blind to the missing history. He doesn't ask any aggressively probing questions about my past. He naively assumes a soft-spoken woman naturally lived a quiet life. He treats me with a level of traditional respect that almost feels alien. He opens my car door and pulls out my chair. There are absolutely no 2 a.m. late-night summons. He plans proper, expensive weekend dates days in advance. By month 3, we are casually looking at Zillow listings together. He holds my hand across the table and talks about joint savings accounts. He introduces me to his mother as the woman he has been waiting for. I nod and smile demurely, playing the perfect future daughter-in-law. Internally, I am laughing at how ridiculously easy this all was. The dating market isn't a ruthless meritocracy after all. It is just a simple game of optics, and I am the grand champion. I successfully bypassed the consequences of my entire chaotic decade. I flipped the commitment switch exactly when I wanted to. I secured the exact financial and emotional bailout I demanded. I have everything I am supposed to want. But as I sit in his immaculately clean, dead silent suburban living room, it is 10 p.m. on a Friday night. He is pausing a history documentary to explain a mundane trivia fact. My fake smile begins to strain at the corners. A deeply uncomfortable, terrifyingly familiar itch starts crawling under my skin. 6 months of domestic bliss feels like a velvet coffin. Every night is identically flawless. Dinner at 7, Netflix by 8, lights out by 10:30. My brain is screaming for a hit of chaotic dopamine. I miss the dangerous vibrating energy of a packed club. I miss the intoxicating rush of widespread male attention. I lock myself in his pristine master bathroom on a Tuesday night. I quietly re-download Tinder. I tell myself I am just looking. I don't intend to actually message anyone. I just need to see the notifications roll in to know I still have it. The digital validation hits my starved veins like pure electricity. But it only makes the real world feel more suffocating. I start resenting David for his absolute perfection. His emotional stability feels like a personal insult to my boredom. I pick vicious fights over absolutely nothing just to feel a pulse in the room. I scream at him for loading the dishwasher wrong. I accuse him of being stagnant and completely devoid of passion. I desperately want him to throw a plate, to yell back, to show some toxic fire. Instead, he just calmly apologizes and asks if I am feeling stressed. His mature, measured responses make me want to tear my hair out. I am terrified to admit that I am fundamentally wired for chaos. The real breaking point happens 2 weeks later. David hosts his senior firm partners for a sophisticated couples dinner. There are expensive wine pairings and artisanal charcuterie boards. The conversation is painfully dry and entirely predictable. They talk about mortgages, golf swings, and private school tuitions. I start pouring my wine with a heavy hand just to survive the evening. 3 glasses quickly blur into 5. The room gets warm, and my carefully constructed filter dissolves completely. One of the wives mentions a polite, boring family trip to Miami. I laugh a little too loudly at her conservative itinerary. I interject to say Miami is only actually fun if you know the right yacht promoters. The dining table goes completely silent. I completely ignore the social cue and launch into a story about a week-long bender in South Beach. I loudly detail how 3 different guys fought to pay for my VIP table at E11 even. I casually name-drop a notoriously sleazy DJ I spent a weekend with in a penthouse. I laugh heartily at my own punchline about waking up on a stranger's balcony with no shoes. No one else is laughing. The wives are staring at me with wide, horrified eyes. The senior partners are awkwardly examining their empty wine glasses. I blink through the alcohol haze and look across the table at David. His polite, loving smile is entirely gone. The warm, future-planning boyfriend vanishes in an instant. He is staring at me like he is looking at a completely foreign entity. His eyes are sharp, calculating, and suddenly terrifyingly alert. He politely excuses himself to begin clearing the plates. He doesn't look at me or say a single word for the rest of the night. As I watch him methodically wash the dishes in dead silence, a cold knot forms in my stomach. I realize he isn't just upset about an inappropriate joke. He is finally putting the pieces together. The morning after the dinner party is a masterclass in suffocating silence. David makes coffee exactly like he does every morning. He pours me a cup and slides it across the marble island. He doesn't kiss my forehead. He doesn't ask how I slept. He just tells me he has errands to run in the city. The door clicks shut behind him, leaving me alone with a pounding headache and pure dread. I spend the entire Saturday frantically checking his location on his shared GPS. He is supposed to be at the dry cleaners. Instead, his dot is sitting at an upscale sports bar downtown. He is meeting up with his old college buddy, Marcus. Marcus is a commercial real estate broker. Marcus also spends 3 nights a week at the exact clubs I used to terrorize. Panic turns my blood to ice water. I know exactly what David is asking him over those beers. It takes less than 2 hours for my carefully constructed house of cards to vaporize. The city is massive, but the nightlife scene is a suffocatingly small town. All it takes is one casual question to the right person. Marcus inevitably texts a local promoter. The promoter checks his old VIP table group chats. My name is a notorious punchline-worthy legend in those threads. The pristine timeline of my quiet, traditional past is mathematically shredded. 5 years of relentless weekend benders, dozens of wealthy promoters, hundreds of nameless VIP wristbands. My modest claim of a single-digit body count is utterly obliterated. I pace the apartment living room until my feet ache. I practice a dozen different variations of damage control in the mirror. I will say I was young and naive. I will say I was pressured by a toxic sorority environment. I will cry and insist the rumors are just bitter, rejected men trying to ruin my reputation. The front door unlocks precisely at 4 in the afternoon. David walks in and hangs his coat perfectly on the rack. I immediately launch into my rehearsed, tearful apology for last night's dinner. I tell him the expensive wine mixed badly with my social anxiety. I tell him I entirely fabricated the Miami story, just to sound interesting to his wealthy friends. He doesn't interrupt me, he just watches me speak. There is absolutely no anger in his eyes. There is no betrayal, no heartbreak, no toxic passion at all. His gaze is entirely cold and clinical. It is the exact look of an auditor finding a massive terminal discrepancy in a corporate spreadsheet. He isn't looking at a high-value future wife anymore. He is looking at a completely depreciated, fraudulent asset. He walks over to the kitchen counter and pours himself a glass of water. Marcus says hello, by the way, he says softly. My lungs completely stop working. He takes a slow, agonizing sip of his water. He mentioned you used to be a permanent fixture at Tao on Thursday nights. He sets the glass down with a soft, definitive clink. We need to sit down and have a conversation about your actual history. We sit down at the glass dining table. The silence in the room is deafening. I immediately go on the offensive to mask my sheer panic. I demand to know why he is suddenly freezing me out. I ask why he quietly deleted his Zillow alerts for suburban houses. I ask why I was abruptly uninvited to his sister's baby shower next weekend. I scream that my past has absolutely nothing to do with our future. David rests his hands flat on the table. He doesn't raise his voice a single decibel. He lays out his findings with surgical, devastating precision. He details the screenshots Marcus showed him from 3 different club promoters. He mentions the specific VIP tables, the after parties, the notorious weekend benders. He calculates the brutal mathematical impossibility of my single-digit body count. He tells me he isn't even angry about the sex. He says he is entirely repulsed by the staggering, calculated deception. I start hyperventilating, deploying the frantic tears that always worked on my exes. I throw a massive tantrum right there in his immaculate kitchen. I scream about sex's double standards. I yell that if a man had my exact history, his friends would celebrate him. I violently gesture to my pristine current lifestyle as a proof of my personal growth. I tell him I chose him out of a sea of lesser men. I demand credit for becoming the traditional woman he always wanted. David just watches the explosive performance like a bored theater critic. My emotional manipulation hits a titanium wall of pure apathy. He takes a slow breath and delivers the fatal blow. He tells me I am incredibly fun to sleep with. He admits our chemistry in the bedroom is fantastic, but then he uses the exact clinical vocabulary of his corporate day job. He calls my extensive nightlife history an unacceptable liability. He says my past makes me a wildly high-risk investment for a permanent partnership. He states he will absolutely never put a diamond ring on a local punchline. The words slice through my ego like a scalpel. He is completely stripping me of my high-value status. He is officially demoting me to a temporary placeholder. I am suddenly no different than the disposable hookups I used to treat like trash. The irony is absolute poison. He checks his Rolex and stands up from the table. He calmly announces he is going to the gym to clear his head. He leaves my shattered reality sitting on the bar stool. I stare at my reflection in the dark kitchen window. Logic and tears have completely failed. My fake traditional persona is burned to the ground. But I absolutely refuse to lose my grip on this luxurious lifestyle. If words can't secure this man, I only have one weapon left in my arsenal. I walk straight into my closet and pull down the most expensive lingerie I own. David's key turns in the lock. I am waiting on his velvet sofa in black La Perla silk. The apartment is dimly lit. The trap is meticulously set. He walks in, dropping his gym bag by the door. His eyes scan over my body. I see the primal biological reaction register in his pupils. I immediately go to work. I deploy every single weapon I spent my 20s sharpening. I use the hypersexual tricks I learned from the finance bros, the promoters, the athletes. I am aggressive, uninhibited, entirely subservient to his physical pleasure. I perform like my absolute life depends on it. Because it does. I want to remind him exactly why he cannot let me go. The physical connection is electric. It is a masterclass in weaponized intimacy. For 2 hours, I am entirely convinced I have won him back. We lie in the tangled bed sheets afterward. I wait for him to pull me against his chest. I wait for the post-clarity reassurance that we are still a team. Instead, David grabs his phone from the nightstand. He doesn't kiss my forehead. He doesn't whisper any sweet affirmations. He checks his work emails. I try to trace my fingers down his chest to maintain the intimacy. He politely catches my wrist and moves my hand away. He tells me that was an incredible performance. The word performance stings like a physical slap. He looks at me with a terrifyingly calm smirk. He thanks me for proving his exact point. He says a wife builds a home, but a professional just provides a service. My grand, desperate seduction completely backfired. I just validated his entire thesis about my transactional nature. The next few weeks become a psychological torture chamber. I am fully demoted to a glorified roommate with benefits. The warm, protective boyfriend is entirely dead. He stops paying for my expensive dinners out. He stops asking about my day. He openly plans his weekends without me. He goes golfing with his colleagues every Saturday morning. I try to manufacture a massive emotional crisis to force his attention. I pretend my car broke down on the highway in tears. He calmly texts me the number for AA and turns on his do not disturb mode. I cry hysterically in the living room just to see if he will check on me. He simply steps over my legs on his way to the kitchen for a protein shake. I am entirely invisible to him unless we are between the sheets. My absolute worst nightmare is playing out in real time. I am trapped in an expensive apartment with a man who sees exactly through me. I am giving him wife-level submission on a disposable hookup budget. I desperately cling to the delusion that I can still fix this. Thursday morning, he walks into the bedroom fully dressed in a tailored suit. He tells me to put some clothes on immediately. He says we are going to the coffee shop down the street. I notice he is holding my monogrammed overnight bag in his left hand. My stomach violently drops to the floor. We walk to the cafe in absolute suffocating silence. He orders a black drip coffee. I cannot even stomach the thought of a latte. We sit at a small metal table near the front window. He places my overnight bag on the empty chair beside me. The execution takes exactly 5 minutes. He doesn't use the word sorry once. He says the arrangement has permanently run its course. He explains my termination with the brisk efficiency of a corporate layoff. There are no tears in his eyes. There is absolutely no hesitation in his voice. I try to cry, hoping a public scene will trap his empathy. He simply adjusts his cuffs and checks his Rolex. He tells me to take care of myself. He stands up, leaves $5 on the table, and walks out the door. I sit there completely frozen, staring at my packed bag. 3 weeks pass in a brutal blur of cheap wine and denial. I obsessively refresh his Instagram page every single hour. I expect to see him at the downtown clubs, celebrating his freedom. Instead, he posts a weekend photo from a suburban farmer's market. There is a woman standing intimately in the frame next to him. My heart completely stops. I violently zoom in on her face with trembling fingers. She is astonishingly average. She is wearing minimal makeup, sensible flats, and a modest sundress. I immediately hunt down her tag profile to find flaws. Her account is securely locked on private. She has less than 400 followers. Her bio doesn't list an OnlyFans link or a VIP bottle service promoter. It just mentions a golden retriever and a master's degree. There is zero digital footprint of her ever stepping foot in a nightclub. My former party friends try to comfort me in the group chat. They call her plain. They call her a massive physical downgrade. They tell me he is just settling because he couldn't handle a fiercely independent woman. But my towering delusion finally shatters into a million pieces. I look at the genuine, relaxed smile on his face in that photo. He never once smiled at me like that. He looks completely at peace. The terrifying reality violently crashes over me in waves. The exact traits I spent a decade ruthlessly mocking are the actual prize. The boring lifestyle I haughtily rejected at 22 is the only currency accepted at 30. My triple-digit body count didn't make me an empowered goddess. It made me entirely bankrupt in the high-value marriage market. I stare at my reflection in the dark glass of my phone screen. The contouring is flawless, but the eyes look utterly hollow and defeated. I am completely alone in my aggressively decorated, overpriced apartment. The absolute silence of my feminist independence is deafening. I open my phone's app drawer with a heavy, trembling thumb. I tap the pink flame icon I confidently swore I would never touch again. I am officially 32 years old. The Tinder loading screen burns my eyes in the dark apartment. I set up my brand new profile with a practiced, desperate precision. I use the best lighting, the most flattering angles, the heavy filters. I am ready to reclaim my throne. I start swiping right, waiting for the familiar flood of VIP invitations. The algorithm immediately violently humbles me. The endless buffet of wealthy finance bros is completely gone. It has been replaced by a digital wasteland. My screen is an endless parade of receding hairlines and cargo shorts. I am exclusively fed 38-year-old divorced men holding fish. Single dads asking if I am willing to babysit their toddlers on the second date. Guys with misspelled bios demanding immediate low-effort hookups at budget motels. The expensive 7 p.m. dinner dates are entirely extinct. I swipe left so hard my thumb physically aches, but the quality of the deck never improves. I am firmly in the clearance bin of the dating market. The realization boils into pure, unadulterated rage. I violently close the app and open Instagram. I start typing a massive, unhinged text block on my story. I write a bitter 1,000-word essay about the modern dating scene. I complain that men are deeply intimidated by experienced, independent women. I claim that society cannot handle a strong female who knows her absolute worth. I hit post and wait for the digital applause. The validation trickles in slowly, and it is entirely hollow. 4 fire emojis from a girl in my old sorority who is still bartending at 34. A supportive comment from my twice-divorced aunt. A string of clapping hands from the remaining single, childless women in my dying group chat. We are an echo chamber of depreciating assets, cheering each other on as the ship permanently sinks. I lock my phone and set it face down on my expensive marble coffee table. It is 10:30 p.m. on a Friday night. My apartment is aggressively decorated with overpriced velvet pillows and modern art. It looks like a high-end furniture catalog. It is also completely, suffocatingly empty. There is no music playing. There is no waiting Uber downstairs. There is no one asking me to stay in and watch a boring history documentary. I stare at my phone, desperately waiting for the screen to light up. It remains completely black. It refuses to buzz. The silence in the room is absolute and terrifying. I wrap my cashmere blanket around my shoulders and stare at the blank wall. I finally understand the brutal, mathematical truth. The endless buffet of my 20s wasn't free. I am just finally paying the bill.